The night sky above New Mexico sparkled with countless stars as Dr. Elaine Morgan rubbed her tired eyes. The clock on the wall showed 2:17 a.m. Most people were asleep, but not Elaine. She was listening to the stars, waiting for something that most of her colleagues believed would never come. The SETI facility was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the coffee machine in the corner. Elaine reached for her mug, her third coffee tonight, and took a sip of the bitter liquid. The caffeine kept her alert during these long night shifts. She had been working at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program for 7 years now. 7 years of listening to static and analyzing signals that always turned out to be natural phenomena or human-made satellites. 7 years without any sign that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. Until tonight. The first indication came as a small spike on her monitor. Elaine almost missed it, but years of training made her eyes catch the unusual pattern. She straightened in her chair and adjusted her glasses, thinking it was probably just another false alarm. "Computer, isolate signal and enhance," she said, her voice breaking the silence of the room. The computer worked quickly, filtering out background noise and focusing on the strange pattern. As the signal became clearer on her screen, Elaine's hands began to shake. This wasn't random noise. It wasn't a pulsar or radio emissions from a distant galaxy. The pattern was too regular, too structured. "Oh my God," she whispered to the empty room. "This is it." She ran several tests to make sure she wasn't seeing things. Each test confirmed what she already knew in her heart. The signal was artificial. Someone or something had sent this message across the stars, and by incredible luck, Earth had caught it. With trembling fingers, Elaine picked up the phone and called her supervisor, Dr. Alan Wright. "This better be important." Alan's sleepy voice grumbled after the fourth ring. "Alan, it's Elaine. I found something. You need to come in. Now." There was a pause on the line. "Is this another false positive? Because if it is..." "It's not," Elaine cut him off. "I ran every test we have. This is real." The urgency in her voice must have convinced him because 30 minutes later, Alan rushed through the door of the facility. His gray hair was uncombed, and his shirt was buttoned wrong. He looked annoyed at being pulled from his bed in the middle of the night, but that annoyance vanished the moment Elaine showed him the signal. "See this pattern?" Elaine pointed to her screen where a series of pulses appeared at regular intervals. "It repeats exactly every 12.4 seconds. Nature doesn't do that." Alan leaned closer to the monitor, his eyes wide. "Have you started decoding?" Elaine nodded and pulled up another screen filled with numbers and symbols. "I think it's a mathematical language. Universal constants, prime numbers. Whoever sent this wanted to make sure any technological civilization could understand it." As they worked through the night, the message began to take shape. What they found made their blood run cold. "It's not just a message," Elaine explained, pointing to her calculations. "It's coordinates and a timestamp." Alan's face turned pale as he studied the data. "These coordinates, they're pointing at Earth. And this timestamp, if I'm converting this correctly, it's less than 3 months from now." By sunrise, they had alerted the highest levels of government. By noon, the facility was swarming with officials in dark suits and military uniforms. Men and women with stern faces and important titles examined their findings, asked questions, and made urgent phone calls. Elaine watched as her discovery was packaged into secure cases and loaded onto military helicopters. She fought to stay involved, arguing that she understood the signal better than anyone. After some debate, she was allowed to join the team heading to Washington. For the next 3 weeks, Elaine barely slept. She worked alongside the brightest minds in cryptography, linguistics, astronomy, and mathematics. Together they peeled back layers of the alien message, uncovering more details with each passing day. The picture that emerged was devastating. The message wasn't meant for Earth at all. It was a military transmission between ships or bases belonging to something calling itself the Hegemony of 7 Stars. Earth had been designated as a target for annexation. The timestamp wasn't a warning, it was a scheduled invasion date. In a secure underground room beneath the Pentagon, Elaine presented their findings to the President and the National Security Council. "They don't even consider us a threat," she explained, her voice steady despite her fear. "This message treats Earth like a resource to be claimed, not a home to billions of sentient beings. They're discussing our planet the way we might discuss mining an uninhabited asteroid." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but not like this. Not as prey. "What are our options?" the President finally asked, looking around the table at the assembled generals and advisors. "Militarily? We have none," said General Frank Peters bluntly. "If they can travel between stars, their weapons will make our nuclear arsenal look like slingshots." The mood in the room darkened further. Plans for bunkers and evacuation were discussed. Talk of preserving human culture and DNA samples followed. It sounded like surrender. Then Navy Captain Richard Carter, who had been quietly listening, stood up. "With all due respect, there's another option we haven't considered." All eyes turned to him. "We can't fight them," he said confidently. "But maybe we can talk to them, send a message back, make them reconsider." "And say what?" General Peters scoffed. "Please don't destroy us." "No," Carter replied. "We tell them who we are, what makes us dangerous, what makes us valuable. We make them understand that conquering Earth would cost more than it's worth." As discussion erupted around the table, Elaine sat back in her chair, thinking. Could it work? Could words possibly save humanity from an enemy that crossed the stars? The question hung in the air. What could humanity possibly say that would change the mind of an interstellar empire? 3 days after Captain Carter's suggestion, a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in Colorado buzzed with activity. The President had authorized Project Echo, humanity's attempt to talk its way out of extinction. Dr. Elaine Morgan stepped out of the elevator on level 12, clutching her badge nervously. 2 armed guards checked her ID before allowing her into the main operations center. The large room was filled with computers, screens, and people moving with urgent purpose. "Dr. Morgan," a woman's voice called. "I'm glad you're here." Elaine turned to see a tall woman with short brown hair walking toward her. She recognized Dr. Olivia Blackwell from her TED Talks on game theory and conflict resolution. "The signal expert," Olivia said, shaking Elaine's hand firmly. "We need your help to make sure our message gets to the right place." Elaine nodded. "How's the message coming along?" Olivia's smile faded. "That's the problem. We can't agree on what to say." She led Elaine into a large conference room where 20 people sat around a table arguing loudly. The walls were covered with charts, notes, and images. On one wall, a digital countdown displayed the time remaining until the invasion date: 79 days, 14 hours, 22 minutes. "Everyone, please," Olivia called out, and the room gradually quieted. "This is Dr. Morgan, who discovered the alien signal. She'll help us transmit our message once we decide what that message will be." An older man in a military uniform stood up. "The answer is simple. We show them our weapons. Let them know we won't go down without a fight." "General Harris, with all respect," said a woman in a blue suit, "their technology must be centuries ahead of ours. Our weapons would look like toys to them." "Ambassador Chen is right," said another man. "We should offer them something valuable instead. Knowledge, resources, limited access to Earth." "Surrender with conditions?" someone else scoffed. "Why not? Just hand them the keys to the planet?" The argument erupted again, voices rising as the clock continued its countdown. Elaine watched the chaos with growing concern. These were supposed to be Earth's greatest minds, but fear was clouding their judgment. She caught Captain Carter's eye across the room. He looked equally worried. After 3 more days of heated debate, no consensus had been reached. The scientists wanted to share knowledge. The military wanted to show strength. The diplomats wanted to negotiate. The philosophers questioned whether communication was even possible with truly alien minds. On the morning of the 4th day, Dr. Olivia Blackwell called an emergency meeting. "We're running out of time," she said, pointing to the countdown. 75. days remaining. We need a new approach. She pulled up a presentation on the main screen. I've been studying human conflict resolution throughout history. When faced with a superior force, traditional deterrence often fails. But there's something else that works. Her first slide showed a chessboard. Game theory tells us that unpredictable opponents are the most difficult to defeat. And humans, she clicked to the next slide showing historical images of guerrilla fighters, are notoriously unpredictable. The room was silent as Olivia continued. I propose we tell them the truth about humanity, not just our achievements or our weapons, but our entire evolutionary story. She explained her theory. Earth's harsh conditions had created a species unlike any other. Creatures that rose from being prey to becoming the planet's dominant force through cooperation, tool use, and strategic thinking. We need to make them hesitate, she argued. Give them reason to believe that conquering Earth would be more costly than beneficial. Captain Carter nodded slowly. The hegemony probably conquers worlds all the time. They expect either surrender or futile resistance. We need to show them something they haven't seen before. Over the next 2 weeks, a new message took shape. It wouldn't beg for mercy or make empty threats. Instead, it would tell the story of humanity, the good and the bad. We'll show them how we've fought each other for thousands of years, Olivia explained as the team worked. How we've developed endless strategies for warfare, from frontal assaults to ambushes, from sieges to scorched earth tactics. But also how we've created art and music, added Ambassador Chen. Our capacity for compassion and cooperation. And our stubborn refusal to submit, said General Harris, warming to the idea. They need to understand that humans, when threatened, would rather destroy themselves and their attackers than live as slaves. As Captain Carter put it during one late-night session, we need to make them understand that humans are the species that invented both the suicide bomber and the hunger strike. We'll cooperate if treated as equals, but we'll fight to the last person if cornered. Dr. Elaine Morgan worked day and night with the team to encode this message using the same mathematical principles as the original alien transmission. They created a package of information that included the story of human evolution from prey animals to apex predators, examples of human warfare and peacemaking throughout history, samples of music, art, and literature showing human creativity, scientific achievements demonstrating human problem-solving, images of nuclear tests and biological research labs, videos of extreme human behaviors, from self-sacrifice to violence. On the 50th day before the invasion date, the finished message was reviewed by the President and world leaders. Despite some concerns about revealing too much about human psychology, the consensus was clear. This was humanity's best chance. It's a gamble, admitted Olivia, but it's better than doing nothing. On a cold night in February, with snow falling, outside the Colorado facility, humanity's message was loaded into the world's most powerful transmission system. Elaine checked the coordinates one final time, her hand steady despite the enormity of the moment. Ready to transmit, she announced. The President gave the final authorization. Captain Carter placed his hand on Elaine's shoulder as she pressed the button that would send humanity's story into the void. The message shot upward, traveling at the speed of light, aimed directly at the source of the original transmission. As the team watched the confirmation of successful transmission, an uneasy silence fell over the room. Now began the most agonizing wait in human history. The days after the transmission were the longest of Elaine's life. Like everyone else involved in Project Echo, she jumped at every phone call and notification. The world kept turning, unaware of the approaching danger. Only a small group of people knew that humanity's fate hung in the balance. 29 days passed without any response. The underground facility in Colorado remained active, but the initial energy had faded. People spoke in hushed voices, and the countdown clock on the wall seemed to tick louder each day. 21 days until the projected invasion. Dr. Olivia Blackwell spent most of her time running simulations, trying to predict how the aliens might respond. Captain Carter worked with military leaders on emergency plans, though everyone knew conventional defenses would be useless against a spacefaring civilization. On the 30th day, Elaine was asleep in her small room at the facility when the alarm blared. She jumped out of bed, heart racing, and ran to the command center, still wearing her pajamas and slippers. "What's happening?" she asked as she burst through the door. Captain Carter looked up from a computer screen, his face pale. "We're receiving something, but it's not from the hegemony." Elaine pushed her way to the main console where technicians worked frantically to process an incoming signal. "Where's it from?" she asked. "That's the thing," Carter replied. "It's not from one place, it's from dozens of different locations." Over the next 12 hours, thousands of transmissions flooded Earth's receivers. The patterns were similar to the original hegemony message, but came from different sources scattered across the galaxy. "It's like we accidentally set off an alarm," Elaine said as she sorted through the new signals. "Our message to the hegemony was intercepted by others." The team worked around the clock to decode the new transmissions. As patterns emerged, a surprising picture took shape. Earth wasn't the only target of the hegemony. Dozens of other civilizations throughout the galaxy had been conquered or were scheduled for annexation. But unlike Earth, they hadn't intercepted the plans in advance. "They're reaching out to us because they think we know something they don't," said Olivia, sipping her 5th coffee of the day. "They think we have a way to fight back." Kevin Daniels, a CIA analyst with kind eyes and a serious face, was reviewing the translated messages. "Look at this," he said, pointing to his screen. "This civilization from a planet they call Luyten 3 was conquered 20 Earth years ago. They're still under hegemony control." "And this one," added Elaine, pulling up another message, "says their world is scheduled for resource extraction next year." The president called an emergency meeting. The situation had changed dramatically. The hegemony hadn't responded yet, possibly because they were assessing this unexpected development. Humanity had inadvertently announced itself to the galactic community as a potential resistance leader. "We have 3 weeks until our projected invasion date," the president said, looking at the tired faces around the table. "What do these new messages mean for us?" Olivia cleared her throat. "The hegemony has been expanding for centuries using the same strategy. Identify a target, evaluate its resources, and then strike without warning. No one has ever seen them coming before." "Until us," Captain Carter added. "Exactly," Olivia continued. "When we sent our message directly to them, we did something unprecedented. Now all these other civilizations think we've been fighting the hegemony successfully." Kevin Daniels spoke up. "This could be an opportunity. The hegemony has conquered all these worlds by keeping them isolated. They've never faced united resistance. A plan began to form. If Earth could coordinate with these other civilizations, they might stand a chance together that none of them had alone." The president appointed Ambassador Sofia Martinez to lead the new interstellar communications effort. With her warm smile and calm voice, Sofia had a natural ability to build bridges between different groups. "We don't have advanced technology to offer," she told the president after accepting the role. "But we have something they might need even more: strategy." Over the next week, Sofia worked with Elaine, Olivia, and Linguist to establish better communication with the other civilizations. They created a simple mathematical language to share basic concepts until proper translation could be developed. What they learned was both frightening and hopeful. The hegemony was even more powerful than they had imagined. It controlled thousands of star systems and had technologies far beyond human understanding. But it also had weaknesses. "They've never had to fight a coordinated resistance," Sofia explained during a briefing. "They deal with each civilization separately, using their superior technology to overwhelm any defense." One of the alien messages came from a planet called Proxima b, whose civilization was technologically about 50 years ahead of Earth. They explained that they had developed quantum communication technology that could connect worlds instantly, regardless of distance. This could be the key to coordination. "If we can get our hands on that technology," Kevin Daniels said, "we could create an actual coalition." The countdown clock showed 14 days remaining when the first quantum communicator arrived on Earth, smuggled by a Proxima b trader in a hegemony transport ship. The small device, which looked like a crystal orb, allowed instant communication across light years. Within days, representatives from 17 different worlds were in regular contact. Some were under hegemony control already, operating in secret. Others were free but targeted for future conquest. "This is incredible," Elaine whispered as she watched alien symbols transform into English on her screen. First contact, but not at all how we imagined it. The original invasion date was now just 10 days away. The hegemony still hadn't responded to Earth's original message, which made everyone nervous. Were they ignoring it or planning something worse than invasion? Then on day 43 since Earth's transmission, the quantum communicator lit up with urgent messages from across the galaxy. Hegemony ships were changing course. Scheduled invasions of 3 other worlds had been postponed. Military vessels were being recalled to Central Command. For the first time since the crisis began, hope flickered in the underground facility. The hegemony, faced with an unprecedented coalition and fearing the unpredictable nature of these humans, had paused their plans to reassess. As Captain Carter put it, they're used to hunting lone prey. Now they've stumbled onto a pack. The underground facility in Colorado was no longer big enough. As Earth became the center of an interstellar resistance movement, Project Echo expanded to occupy 3 additional levels of the mountain complex. The main operations room now featured a large holographic display, showing known hegemony territories and the locations of coalition worlds. Ambassador Sofia Martinez stood before this display, studying the positions of the 17 civilizations, now in regular contact with Earth. Her normally perfect appearance showed signs of strain, dark circles under her eyes and wrinkles in her usually crisp suit. She had barely slept in the 2 weeks since the quantum communicator arrived. "Ambassador, the Proxima B representatives are ready for today's strategy session," said her assistant, handing her a tablet. Sophia nodded, took a deep breath, and walked to the newly constructed communications chamber. The room contained the glowing crystal orb of the quantum communicator and screens displaying translation feeds. Kevin Daniels was already there, reviewing intelligence reports. "Good morning, Kevin," Sophia said. "Any news from the hegemony?" "Still, nothing direct," he replied. "But our allies report unusual movement among their fleet. They're definitely reacting to something." The meeting began with representatives from all 17 worlds checking in. The diversity of the coalition was remarkable. Some species were silicon-based rather than carbon. Some communicated through color changes or electrical signals rather than sound. Their technological development ranged from roughly equivalent to Earth to several centuries more advanced. What they shared was a common enemy and a growing sense of hope inspired by humanity's defiance. "The key question remains," said the Proxima B representative, whose name translated roughly as Lightbearer in English. "How do we fight an empire that controls thousands of worlds and has technology far beyond most of our capabilities?" Sophia looked to Dr. Neil Harrison, who sat quietly in the corner of the room. A history professor specializing in insurgency movements, Harrison had been brought into Project Echo 3 days earlier. With his messy gray beard and worn tweed jacket, he looked out of place among the government officials and scientists. "Dr. Harrison, would you share your thoughts?" Sophia asked. Harrison cleared his throat and stepped forward. "I've spent my life studying how smaller forces resist larger ones throughout human history. The hegemony has ruled through divide and conquer tactics for centuries, possibly millennia. They've never faced united resistance because they've always prevented communication between their targets." He pulled up images of historical Earth conflicts on the main screen. "What we've learned from our own history is that superior technology and numbers don't guarantee victory. The American Revolution, the Vietnam War, and countless other conflicts show that determined resistance with the right strategy can overcome seemingly impossible odds." The alien representatives listened with growing interest as Harrison outlined principles of asymmetric warfare and resistance movements. "The hegemony's greatest strength, its size, is also its greatest weakness," Harrison continued. "They must maintain control over thousands of worlds. That requires resources, attention, and energy spread thin across the galaxy. Over the Next 3 days, Harrison worked with military strategists from Earth and the other worlds to develop a comprehensive plan. They identified key hegemony supply routes, communication hubs, and command structures based on intelligence from worlds already under Imperial control. More advanced civilizations in the coalition would provide technology and resources. Others would contribute specialized knowledge or access to strategic locations. Earth's contribution was purely intellectual. Centuries of experience fighting against superior forces, detailed analyses of historical revolutions, and a particular, human talent for identifying structural weaknesses in systems of power. "Humans are strange," commented a representative from a gas giant moon called Titan IV. "You spend so much time fighting each other, yet you've developed such sophisticated understanding of cooperation and resistance." "Perhaps because of that, not despite it," Kevin Daniels suggested. "Our divisions forced us to develop strategies for both conflict and reconciliation." As the coalition developed, 3 Proxima B engineers arrived on Earth to help install more quantum communicators. Within days, secure communication networks connected all 17 worlds. Information that would have taken years to travel at light speed now flowed instantly between the stars. Captain Carter worked with Earth's military leaders to prepare for possible hegemony attack, though their plans now focused on evacuation and hiding rather than hopeless direct confrontation. The goal was no longer just to survive, but to become part of something larger, a galactic movement for freedom. On day 57 since Earth's original transmission, the coalition detected large, hegemony fleets moving toward 3 different member worlds. The invasion seemed to be back on, but with new targets. "They're testing us," Kevin Daniels said during an emergency meeting. "Seeing how our coalition responds, the coalition put their new plans into action. On worlds targeted for invasion, resistance cells activated, supply ships disappeared, communication relays failed mysteriously. Hegemony forces found themselves dealing with equipment malfunctions, misleading intelligence, and coordinated strikes against vulnerable points. No single action could stop the hegemony, but thousands of small disruptions began to slow the massive empire's movements. For the first time in its long history, the hegemony was fighting an enemy it couldn't easily see or understand. "It's working better than we expected," Sophia told the president during a private briefing. "The hegemony's command structure is rigid and unused to adaptation. They don't have protocols for this kind of resistance." Dr. Elaine Morgan and Dr. Olivia Blackwell worked with scientists from other worlds to understand hegemony technology. Much of it was still beyond human comprehension, but they were learning rapidly. "Their ships use a form of gravity manipulation for propulsion," Elaine explained, pointing to diagrams provided by coalition allies. "It's incredibly advanced, but it also requires enormous energy and has specific vulnerabilities." On day 64, the coalition scored its first major victory. A hegemony command ship near Proxima B suffered a critical system failure after coalition operatives infiltrated its maintenance crew. The ship's crew was forced to evacuate, and the vessel was captured intact, providing invaluable intelligence about hegemony operations. The news spread quickly through the coalition, bringing renewed hope. What had seemed impossible just months ago now felt achievable. The hegemony could be beaten. On day 67, the original date the hegemony had planned to invade Earth came and went without incident. Earth remained untouched, protected not by superior weapons or technology, but by being part of something larger than itself. As Kevin Daniels put it during a celebration that evening, "They thought they were hunting a primitive species, isolated, on a single world. Instead, they awakened a force that's connecting the galaxy against them." The hegemony, for the first time in its long history, was on the defensive. 3 months after Earth was supposed to be invaded, the morning sky above Colorado turned bright with unusual lights. Radar stations across North America detected a massive object entering Earth's atmosphere. Fighter jets scrambled, and the coalition headquarters went into lockdown. "It's a hegemony diplomatic vessel," Kevin Daniels announced, reading data from coalition allies who had seen such ships before. Not a warship. The world watched in awe as the alien ship, smooth and silver like a giant teardrop, settled into orbit around Earth. It was larger than any spacecraft humans had built, easily visible from the ground as a new star in the daytime. Sky. They want to talk, Ambassador Sofia Martinez said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. After all this time, they finally want to talk. The hegemony requested a meeting with Earth's leaders. After careful consideration and consultation, with coalition allies, the president agreed. The United Nations in New York was chosen as the meeting site. 2 days later, under the tightest security in human history, a smaller shuttle from the main hegemony ship landed in Central Park. From it emerged 3 tall figures in flowing silver robes. They had 4 arms each and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their eyes were large and black, set in triangular faces. The being in the middle stepped forward and spoke through a translation device. I am the voice of the 7, authorized to speak for the hegemony of 7 stars. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the UN, representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to meet the aliens. Dr. Elaine Morgan, whose vigilance had first detected the hegemony's plans, sat in the front row beside Captain Carter and Dr. Olivia Blackwell. They had been invited as the team who had started Earth on this journey. The voice of the 7 stood before the assembly, towering over the human delegates. Your species has accomplished something unprecedented in the long history of the hegemony, it stated through its translator. You have created unity where we sought division. You have turned our targets into allies. A murmur ran through the crowd. The alien continued. For 10,000 years, the hegemony has expanded without true resistance. We thought this was the natural order of things. You have proven otherwise. What followed was the negotiation of the first Galactic Concordat, a treaty that would recognize the sovereignty of all intelligent species and establish protocols for peaceful interaction between civilizations. The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. Representatives from other coalition worlds joined via quantum communicator, their voices and images projected into the UN hall. The hegemony, faced with a united front, made concessions it had never made before. On the final day, as the treaty was prepared for signing, the voice of the 7 approached Elaine. You are the one who first heard our message, it said. You changed the destiny of many worlds. Elaine smiled nervously. I was just doing my job, listening to the stars. Because of you, we now listen as well, the voice replied. The president announced that Dr. Elaine Morgan would lead Earth's new Interstellar Relations Department. As she signed the Concordat on behalf of humanity, Elaine thought about the journey that had brought them all to this moment. A single intercepted message, a desperate warning sent into the void, and now, a new future for Earth and countless other worlds. As delegations from 17 worlds celebrated the dawn of a new galactic era, one truth became abundantly clear. In the vast theater of cosmic powers, humanity had found its role, not as conquerors or victims, but as catalysts for change. The hegemony had targeted Earth believing they had found another easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a species whose greatest strength wasn't technology or numbers, but an unmatched ability to turn adversity into opportunity, to build connections where none existed before, and to imagine futures that seemed impossible until humans made them real. The stars would never be the same again.